After one of the worst seasons in franchise history, Nashville has got to get more out of the veterans to change the outcome this season. Today, we'll discuss what we must see from the vets if this team hopes to compete.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Friday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and, of course, our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio and Friends. I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host for the Hockey News.
We put out the call for questions ahead of training camp, and friends, there is no lack of question when it comes to this Nashville Predators team going into this season. We have talked earlier in the week about young players coming into training camp, but today we're going to turn some of our attention to answering questions about the veterans and what we hope, maybe expect to see from the more experienced players on this roster. It is also Friday, friends, and so we are looking forward Friday. Emma and I are going to share some near future events that we are looking forward to. All right, Emma, back at it at Ford Ice Center, Bellevue. Going to get that. Yep. Nashville Predators back at it on the ice today. If anybody is interested, Friday's schedule as of the time of this recording, practice kicks off at 8:50, and then there will be some back-to-back scrimmages, inter-squad scrimmages in between the three different groups. So if you are looking for a little more game action, that you could find that today at Ford Ice Center, Bellevue with the practices. We've talked a lot, Emma, about the young players. We've talked about development camp. We've talked about rookie camp. We've talked about the prospect showcase. But here's the truth. We got to talk about the veterans. And so we got a question from one of our insiders. What do we need to see from the veterans to feel reassured that we will have a better season this year? So let's tackle this two ways. One, what's your overarching answer for that? And then we're going to look at some specific veterans and dial in on what that individual player needs to show to be better. So overall, Emma, what do we need to see from the veterans?
I mean, it's tricky in terms of training camp because training camp to me, the veterans are who they are. Like, I think that it's more about, you want to see the young players, like the players who are supposed to take the next step. Like, how close are they? What do they look like? Who's bulked up over the summer? At this point, these guys are who they are. And so individually speaking, I don't know that there's really going to be much that I'm like, oh, I need to see this from them. The biggest issue with the veterans I felt was, and honestly, it's not limited to them. It's the entire team. It's the ability to play as a 5-man unit. And training camp is not the best opportunity to see that. Like, I think training camp, you learn more about individual players than you do about the team. And in this particular case, I already know, we know what we need to know about these players. There's plenty of film on them. We're familiar, but you want to see them play with more chemistry, and play together as a 5-man unit. And so, I mean, I don't know how much of that, quite frankly, you're really going to see until you start actually seeing how they perform in games. So I really don't know. Maybe that's kind of a cop-out answer, but that's just kind of how I feel about it.
I was talking with somebody about, I enjoy tracking the prospects because we really don't see them day in and day out. So when you watch the prospects from one training camp to the next, I liken it to watching my grandson go from birth to 1 year old. Like, so many changes. Everything is different. Look at that skill set. But then when you watch a 24-year-old over the course of 12 months, the changes are so nuanced, you probably don't notice them. And I think that is what training camp is for the veterans. Like you said, we know who Filip Forsberg is. That is not to say that Filip Forsberg isn't working on something specific in his game to improve it. It's that there is such nuance to his game as a veteran that it's not like we're going to watch him in training camp and go, my gosh, Filip Forsberg has unlocked a new level. It's much more nuanced than that. So in training camp, it really is kind of hard to gauge change, growth, development, that kind of thing with these veterans because they're developed. And here's the other thing, preseason games aren't going to tell you nothing either. Because A, they're not going to play together for most of these preseason games. And B, you are not going to be competing against NHL caliber rosters, full NHL rosters in preseason either. And so preseason training camp, I mean, a lot of it skill set wise and for the coaching staff is about the younger players. But that's not to say the veterans don't have an important role. And I think at training camp, it's got to be like leading this group cohesively. And I don't even know that I can tell you what that's going to look like. Like, I don't know that I can tell you I want to see these actions, but these veterans, they've got to take the bull by the horns on the ice and off the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I don't know how much of that you're really going to get at camp. It's just kind of something that will happen or should happen. Didn't happen last year, but it's something that you hope will happen with
Yeah.
time and playing in games.
Yeah. So speaking of playing in games, let's look at a couple of these veterans and let's talk about what we want to see from them, not necessarily in training camp, but over the course of the season. What has to improve? And we're really picking, like we said, we're really picking at these guys because, again, we said on yesterday's show, Ryan O'Reilly is Ryan O'Reilly. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. But we're going to do it anyway. So when it comes to Filip Forsberg, look, no notes really on Filip Forsberg. I'm going to be honest with you. Filip Forsberg, looking back at your season and what I want to see from you, I don't have a lot of notes, but I would like you to hit fewer posts. And here's the thing, so would he.
I was going to say he probably would too. So,
Yes.
that's probably a shared goal that we all have.
Yeah.
I don't really, again, not really on my radar, to be honest. I'm not worried about Filip Forsberg. I'm probably not even going to be watching Filip Forsberg at training camp, to
Mhm.
be honest, because it's like we've
Yeah.
been covering him, we've seen what he can do.
Yeah. I'm going to be watching the people trying to defend Filip Forsberg. That's
Yes.
what I'm going to, when Filip Forsberg's on the ice, that's what I'm watching.
Actually, I should amend my statement when I say
Mhm.
I'm not going to be watching him. I am, but I'm not going to be like, oh, what can I learn from this? I
Yes.
will be watching because sometimes during practices and skates, he will try some off the wall stuff. And it's very fun, very
Mhm.
entertaining to watch. And you never know when he's just gonna, whip out a new trick. So I'll be watching him for that. But again, really
Yeah.
nothing beyond that.
Yeah. Over the course of the season, we talked about this on yesterday's show when it comes to Steven Stamkos. Here's what I don't want to see. Don't really want to see you play center, big guy. Not unless somebody gets injured. So I would love to see Stamkos stay on the wing over the course of the season. I also would like to see Steven Stamkos score more goals at even strength. And look, scoring goals at 5-on-5 is a note for them all. But Stamkos really struggled last year at 5-on-5 to get back to what is pretty typical for him. So for me, I'm like, how about some even strength goals, big guy?
Well, and I mean, to that end, I think that getting him in a consistent role, once again, a note for them all, getting him in a consistent role on the wing where he's freed up to actually find, go to his office and do his thing, I think is going to be helpful for that. Um, yeah, I don't know that it's going to solve all of the world's problems, but I think that it's going to be key to actually getting him in a consistent role. And
Yeah.
the same could be said really for a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Last season, Stamkos scored 13 even strength goals. He averages over the course of an 82 game season 25. So I'm not great at math, but I know I want more of towards the 25. So those are my notes for Steven Stamkos. Coming up, we're going to tell you what we want to see from Ryan O'Reilly, Jonathan Marchessault, and Roman Josi over the course of the season that will make us feel a little bit better about this roster. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for all those kickoffs with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's those player props, building a same game parlay, or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game that much more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting fanduel.com to get started. That's fanduel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Emma, we've mentioned it's going to be really tricky to say what are we going to see from the veterans? What do we have to see from them in training camp? But looking at over the course of the season, when you think about Ryan O'Reilly, what do you think if we see more of or different from small adjustments that might make a difference in the outcome of his personal production?
Well, I mean, maybe be a little nicer to yourself after losses. That would be nice, Ryan. But no, I think again, he's kind of another one that I'm like, he was not the issue for me.
Mm-mm.
I think that you got a really good version of him when he had two consistent line mates in Filip Forsberg and Gus Nyquist. Remember him?
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that was just last season, you all.
I know. That's wild. But wild because he
Wild.
went to the wild, but now
Yeah.
I didn't even do that on purpose. Now he's with
Then they
Winnipeg.
jettisoned him off to Winnipeg. See what I did there?
Hey, I see what you
Hey.
did there. Um, anyway, I don't know. He's another one that it's like I keep coming back to me having these conversations about what do you need to see from each veteran individually.
Mhm.
I don't need to see anything from them individually, quite honestly. I am not like, oh, well, this guy needs to do this better. This guy needs to do this better. No, they need to play better as a 5-man unit.
Yeah.
And that's going to come with consistency of personnel, Andrew Brunette. So that's what I keep coming back to with
Mhm.
these veterans. It's not individual performance. It's not like, you know, Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault came to Nashville and forgot how to play hockey. It's
Right.
they need to play hockey together. And I think that a lot of that comes from coaching and it comes from honestly the way you run training camp. I mean, it's been we've heard, I mean, for the last 2 seasons now under Andrew Brunette. I mean, we've been hearing consistently from players that Andrew Brunette's training camp is very different from what they're used to.
Mhm.
It's a lot of skating. It's a lot of like conditioning. Which on one hand makes sense because, given the system and it's a lot of skating and you want to make sure that guys aren't completely out of gas by the third period of a game. I understand that. But at the same time, it's like you're not training camp isn't about getting guys back into shape. They've already started doing that. It's not like
Right.
this is the first time they've skated all summer. They've been doing that on their own. So this is like, it's not about getting guys into better individual shape. So I don't think it's about doing drills and doing conditioning exercises to help them individually. I think it's more schematic. You need to run plays together. You need to decide who works best together and how we're going to execute these certain schemes, these certain systems, and go from there. But again, if you think about, I'm not trying to oversimplify it here, but I think we've talked about it. Power play, penalty kill, they were pretty okay
Fine.
last year.
Yeah.
They were
They
pretty
were
okay.
fine. Yep.
You know what the difference between that and the 5-on-5, other than obviously the number of players on the ice, it's that it was the I was about to be like, guys, crazy. I just realized this. There's only 4 guys on the ice during the penalty kill. No, that's the obvious. But I think the bigger thing is the personnel was pretty consistent on those units. You know where the
Yes.
personnel wasn't consistent? At 5-on-5.
5-on-5. Yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe we spend less time on the individual or the fundamentals. And that
Mhm.
sounds crazy to say, spend less time on the fundamentals. But it's like, for this team, you have to know what this team needs. And this team does not need like, oh, let's do passing drills. Let's do skates and let's skate laps and do all of that. They
Yeah.
don't, again, they are what they are. I think you need more actual game scenarios
More
of,
familiarity with each other, more ability to anticipate. And I like what you're saying because, you can look at last season and say, oh, he brought in Marchessault and Stamkos, and those 2 players just don't work. And that is a takeaway you could get if you don't look closer. But these are veterans whose games could work okay together. But you've got to be able to play them together. And I am with you that so much of that comes back to anticipating where your line mates are going to be and what they're going to do, and familiarity with their style of play and all of that. And that comes from being with those line mates. And that was something that, Andrew Brunette, I think, and I understand why he did it. Those first 5 games of the season that Nashville lost, you think, oh, oops, got to try that. Oops, not the right combination. I'm going to roll the dice again. Oh, oops. And I think that set this team back. Training camp is an opportunity to not oops it. And that's what the veterans need. That by the way is a technical term for those of you who aren't as in depth in hockey.
ooh,
Ooh, oop.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We also had another question that actually is a perfect segue to the conversation we're having. What will help build chemistry at training camp for this team, Emma?
I mean, if I knew, I'd march right down there and just start telling them, because I think it's kind of, not to sound like a broken record, but I think there's no magic answer to it. But I think a great start is just getting the same guys together for an extended amount of time and not constantly. Now, I understand training camp, part of it is part of the purpose of camp is to see which combinations work together. So you have to try everything out. I get
Right.
that. But at a certain point, you pick something and you go with it and you stick with the plan. And that, even if things go poorly, you have to let them fall down and you have to let them fail together and you have to let them, figure it out before you immediately be like, nope, oh, got to change it. They made one mistake, go change it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's maybe that comes with like, make your decision. I mean, this now, especially with the forwards, I think like you kind of know where, like, who it is. We didn't bring in any like new key forwards.
Mhm.
Like last year it was Stamkos, it was Marchessault, and it was like, oh, these are guys that you build an offense around. Now we don't have that. So it's like you kind of know who you have here. So let's not spend as much time on, oh, who do we put with whom and who's going to play the best together. It's like, no, you know who you got. You should
Right.
have that already kind of figured out. Spend
Yeah.
more time on like, these are the groups and you're going to work together, because that
Yeah.
only comes with time.
Yeah. Coming up, we're going to talk about the one off ice aspect that could help improve chemistry on this team. Plus, it is Look Forward Friday, friends. Emma and I are going to share some things we are looking forward to. All right, Emma, talking about building chemistry, which was something that this team just couldn't stumble quite into last season. But I do think that they learned some things that will be helpful. And when we're talking about in training camp, what needs to happen, and I think one of the skills that hopefully, especially the veterans, are more comfortable with is having conversations, having hard conversations. Because I think last season, Steven Stamkos was like, I don't know for sure where I fit and where do I speak up? And do I speak up like a captain or do I speak up like the new guy that can't find my way to the ketchup at Trader Joe's? And the leadership group was like, Barry Trotz called it leadership paralysis. We all know what that was. Like it's that thing that you can't necessarily define it, but you know when you see it. Yeah, we saw that. We saw that last season. But honestly, these guys had to have had some hard conversations. We know they did. Filip Forsberg shared that they had some hard conversations when the season ended among the teammates, with the staff, with the front office. And you got to pick that right up. You have got to communicate out of the gate. There can be no more like, oh, I don't know whether to speak up or not. Freaking communicate. And I do think that that is going to be better. And hopefully that will help with communication on the ice and building chemistry and so many of the things that have to happen for this Predators team to figure out not only can they turn it around, but like, who are they? We don't know really anything about this Nashville Predators team going into training camp. We don't know anything.
Yeah. And that's kind of your answer, where you're like, all right, well, we had an entire season, we had an entire 84 years and didn't figure it out.
Mm-mm.
So figure it out.
Figure it
Like,
out.
it's one of those things that, again, you have some new pieces, yes, but I don't think they're going to be as, you're not resting all of your goal scoring hopes and dreams on Eric Holla. I think
Mhm.
that there's a little bit more flexibility there, and I think that these guys, yes, of course, they're all more familiar with each other now. It's not that they don't like each other or they don't get along. It is truly just no one knew what their role was, and
Yes.
that
Yeah.
was frustrating, and so you couldn't come up with an identity together, and that's frustrating. And then by the end, they were so far out of it, it's just like, get us to the end of the year. And I think just that's going to be the biggest thing, is you want to see that there's actually an identity here with this team.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see how far back to functional this team can be from dysfunctional, y'all. Oh, y'all saw it. It was on ice. Just it wasn't working. So it's going to be interesting to see what a very similar roster is going to be able to do. Emma, it is Friday. We have all made it through the week. Hallelujah. But we are kicking off this fun little segment called Look Forward Friday, where we're just going to share some things that we are looking forward to. They can be on ice hockey related, they can be off ice non-hockey related. But Emma, I'm going to have you kick us off. What are you looking forward to this Friday?
Oh goodness. I wasn't expecting to go first. I mean,
prepared.
I was not prepared. Oh. I mean, goodness, I said football last time, so I shouldn't do that again. But we've actually got hockey games to watch this
Yes.
season or this weekend. They're preseason games, but they're games. And that's
Hockey's
more than
hockey,
we've had
baby.
before. Hockey's hockey. So, got the double header, Nashville and Florida on Sunday. So that's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
going to go with that. We've got actual games.
I know. I'm so excited about that. I love the sound of hockey. I know that sounds strange, but hockey is very musical to me. So I'm excited to get back to just hearing that hearing it at training camp and back at Bridgestone. But friends, we all know what Anne is most looking forward to when it comes to games at Bridgestone Arena. And that is the grilled cheese on the first floor of Bridgestone Arena. And I know that they made all of these upgrades and they're doing all these renovations to Bridgestone Arena, and it's going to be amazing when it's all done. But do not touch the grilled cheese stand on the first floor because I have missed that grilled cheese. My husband made me one the other day and I was like, it was fine, but it wasn't the grilled cheese from Bridgestone Arena. So I'm totally jazzed about that grilled cheese. Off ice, going to see a musical, which Zach LaRue should go see. Going to see Come From Away is playing here in Nashville, which is one of my favorite musicals. I've seen it before, but look, like a good musical is still a good musical the third, fourth, or 25th time. Ask me how I know. So I'm here for the musical theater this weekend. Yeah.
Love that.
I know. I love that for us. Let us know what you're looking forward to on this Friday. Drop us a comment on this video. It can be hockey related. It can be life related. It's a nice time to take a minute and be positive because again, friends, we don't know what we've got hockey wise. So just trying to sprinkle some positivity with the Nashville Predators podcast. Before we wrap up this week, Emma, and this episode, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this Friday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back Monday recapping all of the training camp action. We will see you then.